one of the things I'm always struggling with is trying to understand how things relate to one another. So I am surrounded by some of the best and brightest talent on the planet when it comes to getting the most out of the human being, rescuing the human being, turning the volume up to 10, pulling someone out of pathology or catastrophe, right? And for me, when I see the work of bright coaches on the internet, or the bright coaches I get to work with, again, I really try to understand what problem is the coach trying to solve? How are the tools and tactics working to solve that particular problem? Which really leaves me sort of being able to access the internet in a really beautiful way that I highly recommend. That I'm really agnostic about techniques. Really, I want to understand principles. So in that kind of scope and in that vein, I want to talk about corrective exercises versus mobilizations. So let me just put those up here for a second, and we'll call this first category correctives. And then we're going to put over here mobilization and mobilizations. And the reason I want to highlight these is that sometimes I think we fail to appreciate sort of the nuances of this and how these things relate, and sort of in the Venn diagram, how do they move? So oftentimes in the internet, we'll see that people are like, hey, they're doing some kind of movement practice, and they're like, I'm mobilizing. And I'm like, that's not really mobility, right? That's movement practice. So let's take a step back for a second, because we definitely want to get into this gray area, but understand that when we're looking at movement, ultimately, we need to understand what is the root of that movement, and that's position. And a long time we have said that mobility is my ability to have full range of motion and movement skill. And some people might call this motor control, but we'll just call it skill, right? Technique. So these are the roots of position, which helps me to understand sort of the two choices I have over here. So that if I'm seeing someone exercising or moving or training, ultimately, it's really about trying to take a shape and then challenge that shape, because we think that this shape makes a better, more robust, agile human being to go out into the world. Okay. So if we have correctives and mobilizing, well, this fits well. The movement skills end up being a lot of corrective exercises. Now, corrective exercise, in my understanding, really came out of, hey, we see weakness here. And you might think of these as rehab exercises, right? That are very low level, post-surgery, I'm going to do straight arc, short arc quads, or I'm doing active straight leg raises, or some kind of TheraBand exercise. And traditionally, you have to understand that corrective exercises were about some kind of input to do what? To restore a movement skill. And I'm going to change the physiology, of course, and influence the physiology. But on this corrective exercise, I want you to understand that this can be a continuum of rehab all the way down to what we'll call skill transfer exercise. Skill transfer. So that if I'm doing heaving snatch balance, ultimately the goal is to have what? Better snatching, right? So a skill transfer or skill transfer exercise can be the highest continuum of a corrective exercise in order to end up facilitating a better movement quality. So over here on mobilizations, instead of a skill or movement transfer exercise, we call mobilizations position transfer exercises. Position transfer. And the idea here is that this range of motion component is the thing we're trying to influence when we try to mobilize. Now, what we're seeing is that, hey, it's not necessarily a movement-related problem. Maybe the person doesn't know what's going on, but as soon as we give them the cueing technique, they just physically don't have the skill. Oh, it can't be a skill. I don't have the range of motion to put my arm on my head. That's the problem. And certainly, spending time in these end range positions is going to help me ultimately have control of the ranges. But what we find is that more correctives don't always beget better range of motion when it's a range of motion related problem. And again, lots of ways to skin this, lots of ways to understand this. But for me, I'm really breaking down what I see on the internet in terms of restoring positions, reinforcing positions as falling into two categories. I'm mobilized to restore into my range of motion. I can add in a skill transfer exercise if I need, or a lot of times the components of corrective exercises can be and should be elements of your exercise selection in the first place. So if you're pressing or deadlifting, I certainly could do a bunch of corrective exercises, and that continuum of this might be, assistance work. You might call that a corrective exercise, or I'm going to choose a little kind of focus piece where I need to really highlight this aspect of my movement. But ultimately, do I have access to my positions? Can I express those positions? So corrective exercises, again, starts to become gray, because if I'm doing end range isometrics, then that suddenly maybe becomes a corrective. So understand that moving at end range and spending time at some of these end range capsular things, so if I'm hanging on a pull-up bar, breathing, is that a corrective exercise or a mobilization? Maybe it's both. But the bottom line is, when you see a lot of the things we're seeing on the internet, put a band on your hand and walk, understand, what are the problem are they trying to solve? Do we have a movement control problem that needs a corrective skill to reinforce a position? Or do I have a mobilization requirement that someone doesn't have access to all the physiology that everyone agrees we should have access to? So again, helping you understand the relationships between mobilizing and correctives. Why? Because once we understand the patterns, then we can stop fighting about tactics and tools, and we can get back to principles.